When the mortal realm's in need of destruction, you better call on the Lord of Seduction. End of the world, it's almost time, but I'm gonna do it right, the perfect crime. As you may recall, I was en route to rendezvous with La Pomme de la Terre de la Dieu derrière, looking to sort out his sordid siege and secure a shiny sword for my services. I pulled up to the house about 7 or 8 and yelled to my men, "Oh blast, they've got Forsaken." The angry mob protesting about Slaanesh's new wrong touch at the wrong time campaign was made up almost entirely of the lowest pleb emulators the Chaos Wastes had to offer, men so distasteful that even the Dark Gods ignored their texts, driving them into a state of violent insanity that promised to tear my horde a new power converter before second sunrise. Left the Slan man hanging for a few extra weeks so I could finally push all my no-nonsense Norskans into the Chaos Corp corpse compactor, freeing up space for more true devotees of the lords with the oddly shaped swords. Returning then to the scene of the stench revolution, I found that really I'd made no difference to the deadliness of the day, but I imagined that the poor Palace of Pleasure was going to be sticky beyond repair if Slaanesh's cleaners didn't get in soon, so battle was joined. The enemy had a few advantages, that's for sure. To start with, they were led by a charming young man who clearly had gone frame by frame through How to Train Your Dragon. Isn't that technically a wyvern, not a dragon? Ugh. Next. Wasn't the dragon he was famous for, though. They called him A-Called Double Dip on account of him having 2 of everything, including hell cannons, unfortunately. Tried to be clever by putting the hounds out in front to catch their attention, but the enemy was so inaccurate that they seemed to be hitting my men even if they were looking for a plate of pooch. Then the leagues of Forsaken started sauntering up on my flanks. I was ready for them though. The Dark Gods had gifted me new warriors to deal with it. From Slaanesh I had legions of gold-plated pleasure practitioners and a couple of platoons of gore gimps to back them up. Not wishing to entirely use troops trained by a being who knew the art of battle only through perusing the odd issue of Blades and Babes that Khorne had left lying around, I'd also got some diseased divisions from Nurgle, pestilent reapers for whom anyone would swipe right. As more news of enemy reinforcements to our rear came in, I began my strategy. I sent some dogs and my expeditionaries of excessive equine equity to hunt their hell cannons. Not only did we stop both of them from spewing their sultry secretions, but we caused the whole enemy army to rush back to deal with the distraction. Now I'm not saying the warhounds appreciated being eaten by a hungry, dragon-like creature that may or may not actually be a wyvern or winged mountain lion or something, but I'm sure they appreciated the usefulness of the enemy's flank attacks now arriving far too early. Enemy dogs duelled with my dudes and found a Death's Departure Lounge devilishly drained, while nearby I had advanced some folk with long sticks to poke the blokes on the platforms with spokes. And by that I mean I had their chariots caught up in a halberd hoedown. They got away, but what can you do? Shouldn't your halberdiers have just killed the beasts pulling the chariots, or the riders? Well, that would have been nice, but you can't expect too much of them. But from what I can tell, the enemy was standing still in 3 small chariots, with you totally surrounding them. Wouldn't a few thrusts have brought them all down in seconds? Look, mister, I'll give you leeway because you're new on the job. Wait, hang on a second. Why do you all have the same voice? Company policy. Right. Well, I was just... Oh, I've forgotten. The point is our stick men couldn't stick them, so stick to the script or see where I stick this. Understood? The script says yes? Good, good. Now it was time to test Slaanesh's slashers in combat, as the Forsaken were on top of us and then rapidly inside of us, just as Slaanesh would have liked. Regrettably, his little toy soldiers started dying off faster than the Amazon rainforest, #too-real. Looked like the flanks were in trouble then, but in times of crisis, heroes are born. And one such hero emerged. The man, the legend, No-Legs McSpawn Seeker managed to pilfer a pair of peddlers from an obliging corpse and rushed into battle. At the same time, the non-awful troops from Nurgle had already dispatched their foes and were ready to outflank the enemy's outflankers, leaving them deflanked and reflanked by warriors who'll be thanked. Needed to hold out for a little while longer though, and Slan's slappers were all doing impressions of a poorly laid floor hosting a red wine tasting party in an active earthquake zone. A few of my real troops arrived to start mopping things up, and I too decided it was time to join the fray, donning the helm of horror and cutting my way into their ranks, safe in the knowledge that the enemy main force was still dancing about elsewhere. The bebop clip-clop cretins arrived to surround the foe, and the deal was sealed in blood. But good things cannot last forever, at least while outside the Palace of Pleasure. The enemy army finally looked like it was going to attack, so my men scrambled to make themselves presentable for the big moment. They crashed into us with troops and chariots, in some places smashing right through our lines, disabling our hell cannon and bogging down my troops ready for their unconfirmed species of flying beast to jump down for a rather crunchy breakfast. We just needed to hold until our men on the other side of the battle could come and help, and that we did. Nurgle's creepy reapers rushed into the fray, ready to harvest souls and sow destruction, saving our center. The twinkling horsemen with the LinkedIn endorsements arrived on our right to trash the enemy's chariots, letting my men advance to help with the rest of the battle. And on the left, Time Magazine's Man of the Year, the recently legged legend Spawnseeker, led a massive wave of troops to crash into the enemy, shooing away the creature that shall not be named, and treating the hostile infantry to some shock and gore doctrine. From there on, a dance of grace and grit was all it took to win. I stepped out to Charleston my way through their ranks, getting surrounded by a foe that couldn't groove to the beat because I chopped off their feet. Moments later, we were enjoying the fine sight of 100 fleeing foes. From now on, they'd have to let the Slan Man's tenacious tentacles touch them wherever and whenever the paragon of perversion desired. And more importantly, he now owed me a blade worthy of a man working day and night towards his PhD in genocide. I'm saved! You're a hero, my boy! I ain't seen such a fine display of hackety-smack chip shopping since the days of old Corny boys know the facts or get the axe quiz down at the local. I was rather good, wasn't I? And thanks to my pet amateur leg grafting enthusiast, that crone Acolds had his last double dip, if you understand my meaning. You're asking me if I understand a euphemism? Oh, I'm the king of euphemisms, my innocent lad. I've euphed so many misms in my time that I think a bit of my sword's fallen off, you see. Yes, well, that's what I'm here about. I was promised a legendary blade and distinctly remember not being promised any other weapons of mass seduction that such a term could be mistaken for, so why don't you put that away? Oh, sorry about that, my lad. I just needed somewhere to hang my shopping while I got the door. Down you go, Blackbeard's mizzenmast. Now, a sword you want? Well, I've whipped up a little something, a little morsel of murderous metal for you. Feast your mince pies on this. Sliver slash, at last. What a beautiful bringer of brutality, a wonderful waster of whelks, a masterful musterer of mayhem, a gorgeous gasher of guts, an aesthetic aggressor of anguish, a lovely looter of life, a delicious dealer of death, a perfect purveyor of putridity and pain, a sensational surveyor of stupidity slain, the number 1 two-sided 3-yard forehead 5, got a sword of which I'll never get bored, I'll sliver and slash a path of discord, never ignored, Apocalypse Lord. You're a real piece of work, you are. Now get your twisted tongue out of my humble home. Oh, look, you've got me doing it now. Sling your hook. So, I had a brand new toy coming my way, and I was ready to head back into the old world and give it a go. This time I needed to take things serious. I really needed to make some progress towards destroying the old world, or I'd be there until the end of time. Although I guess I was there until the end of time, even though I succeeded. The point is, we burned a Kislevite cold hold to the ground. Scratch 1. Second scratch got snatched, though, when a rather untimely Chaos Rebellion caused the Kislevites to take up the burning themselves, killing themselves and everyone else in the province with them. Fine, nothing to do here, don't mind me passing through. Then, while camping beside Fort Stragov, one of my little fan clubs decided to make it their new clubhouse, so I couldn't burn that place to the ground either. Things were getting silly, I'm sure you'll agree. I was so desperate to burn something down that I started walking around with a blowtorch and a fire extinguisher ironically filled with napalm. Soon reached the town of Zoyshenk, a stupid enough sounding place, but the locals down south clearly invested more points into intelligence than their Norscan neighbours, as they'd walled themselves in. Had to wait a while for them to all starve before I busted my way through and looted the place. Finally, it was time to destroy that poxy city, but while I was getting ready, those damn lads on tour moved in and turned it into a giant temple to the Chaos Gods. I'm not the most pious of men, but I knew I couldn't let my desire to turn the place into a museum of why Sigvald is always right get the better of me, which proved doubly hard as the utter bounders had taken the next town along as well. So in the end, I walked hundreds of miles through the old world and barely destroyed any of it. It's hard to feel useless when you have hair this straight, but still, perhaps I was close. All that was left was to take up the sodding gods on their request to kill the handsomely dressed Chaos Lord hanging out in the mountains nearby. Thinking about all that lack of destruction has got me all depressed. Go find me some buxom wenches and some hung hunks. I need a pick-me-up before I can continue this tale of woe.
Sickly, sinful spectacle stand, shuffle and saunter shamelessly in my scandalizing sight. I suggest a surely such tradition should soar and circle to Sigvald. The salacious, scandalous, and sensational servant of Slaanesh. Son of Slaanesh, sign of sordid acts, and slayer of squalid serfs. See how I stroll, strike, swagger, and swirl, spin and slash, and stab at stupid, senseless scum. Soon they shall seek solace at death from sundry torments, wrought on them by my strategic severing, scintillating shower of shield.